Happy new moon. Today is April 22nd, 2020, and later on this evening at about 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight, say, I don't know what it is, but there will be a new moon in Taurus. Now, I was looking at the Sabians, it's my favorite thing to do for these moons, and they told such an amazing story. So I've kind of put together a little presentation here to look at the symbolism and where the planets are, because there's a lot of planets having a very active conversation. So getting started, the sun and the moon, the Sabian for the degree that they're at is the rainbow's pot of gold. Now, this is a really interesting degree and image because it doesn't give us any information. It doesn't say we found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or there's usually some sort of story around whatever the image is. And here it's just the image. So what this means is that it's very open to interpretation. And I kind of looked at what some of the different messages that could be coming across for this. And I sort of think that there's three scenarios that we may be coming into, and that this new moon may be bringing us a sense of abundance. So we may feel that we have found our pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It may be bringing a misdirected attention, right? So the proverbial forest and the trees, like we're paying so much attention to trying to find the pot of gold that we're missing the rainbow. And the third interpretation is that it's really about setting sort of an end destination. It's like, after I work my way over this rainbow, I hope to get a pot of gold, right? So planning a trajectory of where someone wants to go in a way that's material, and also sort of like going through a sort of spiritual or ethereal experience to getting to something concrete. Now, Saturn is squaring this new moon, this sun and moon conjunction. And the Sabian where Saturn is sitting is an unexpected thunderstorm, right? So we have this sort of beautiful day here with this beautiful rainbow, which of course comes after the rain, right? But then there's an unexpected thunderstorm. So it's a little bit of like maybe things were going to clear up, and then there's sort of some lightning bolt that comes out of the sky. And so some of the things, and having Saturn square to the sun is difficult, and Saturn squaring the moon is difficult. And I'll talk about both of those in a second. But so to have them both with the Saturn square, and this, if you were feeling yesterday on the 21st, like really irritable or just had no desire to do anything, in Italian, we say scoglionato, which just means that you're like, ugh, I don't feel like it. People really annoying you, just having a sort of a feeling of a lack of resources, whatever they are, like life resources, financial resources. You just didn't have it to give yesterday. That's kind of the same energy. And then if we apply that sort of same obstacles also to your emotional landscape, because yesterday the moon was in Aries, today it's in Taurus. And so that changed. So yesterday we were probably like a little bit bitchier because moon was in Aries, ready to fight. Like that lack of energy or the lack of resources made us a little bit aggressive. This one can make us a little bit, just hard to find a sense of pleasure and everything. And so what this means is that this sort of Saturn square to the moon and sun can be like something's temporarily raining on our parade. At the same time, it's also like shaking things up. Lightning often takes out weak structures, so you see it hits trees that are not solid and knocks them out, or energy lines. Or it can also supercharge situations, like sending a bolt of lightning. And we have to remember that Saturn is in Aquarius right now, which is Uranus's home. So moving on, we also have Uranus conjuncting the sun and moon, because he is hanging out over there about 6-7 Taurus. And the degree that he is on is really interesting because it's the woman of Samaria comes to draw water from Jacob's well. Now, this is a story from the Bible, and the Samaritans, the women in particular, were sort of known as being a bit loose, and he would have been Jewish, and this meeting would not be allowed. It was not socially allowed. She would have been considered a woman of disrespect and not at a level that would be allowed to speak to him. She had also had 5 husbands, which is rather unusual. And the man she was living with when she encountered Jesus wasn't even her husband. So she's, a full-on sinner. And she comes to the well and she meets Jesus. And they have this conversation, and he sort of turns it around that she was coming to get water for drinking, and he was saying, if you drink of this water, you're going to continue to need to drink. However, if you drink from the well of eternal life, you will be satiated for life. And it's interesting if you think about that pot of gold rainbow thing. It's like maybe we keep looking for one thing and the answer is actually something else. But in this conversation, she sort of has not so much an epiphany, but he takes her through a spiritual awakening, a sense of forgiveness because she's shocked that he would even speak to her. And so you have this kind of meeting of, let's say, people not on the same team, things that would traditionally, and we think about that Saturn square also, be illegal. This conversation would not be allowed, but it's also quite Uranian because what is more important than taking care of the people? We have to think of the collective. So even if that means breaking tradition, walking away from the norms of the way things used to be, that's sort of the direction forward. And so I think that this energy might bring to us sort of an unexpected meeting, encountering a teacher, an enlightenment, forgiveness for past sins, awakening, a life-changing conversation, a sense of salvation, charity, compassion, and also sort of a new religion, right? It's sort of breaking with the past, breaking with how you've seen, how the establishment has caused you to look at things in the past, and having a conversation or meeting someone or having an interaction that causes you to rethink many of your qualifications from the past, right? So I put this little thing together here. So here we've got the sun and the moon in the center, right? And the sun and the moon is our identity and our emotions, and they're in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and I'll be getting to Venus in a second, in this fixed earth female energy, which is about sensations, germination, gestation, and we have that rainbow's pot of gold symbol. Now, this is in square, so it's going to be a conflict feeling. You're going to feel like you can get either or, that there's no way to mix these two, and it's sort of a choice point. And it's squaring, so this rainbow's pot of gold is squaring this unexpected thunderstorm, which is brought on by Saturn, who is our karma, our responsibilities, our structure, order, stability, our tradition, the establishment. And he's in Aquarius, which is Uranus's house. Now remember, Saturn and Uranus do not like each other. Uranus is Saturn's father. Saturn ends up killing Uranus, and his seed, he cuts off his testicles, and the seed is what populated the earth. And so Uranus is the god of the skies. He is the god of time, right? And he actually, when he was banished after Jupiter took over, he came to Earth where he ruled. And so he sort of brought the sense of time. But in Aquarius, he's about the collective, the tribe, innovation, unpredictability, and the future. And anywhere Saturn touches, he brings a lot of seriousness to it, restrictions. He wants to make sure he's like the ultimate tire kicker. And it's quite interesting because I think that Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus in Taurus are actually working on the exact same thing, just from two completely different angles, right? This is why I put this in the middle, because it's kind of like a sandwich. And since Saturn's in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, this Saturn is actually answering to Uranus. Now, Uranus is in Venus, Sun and Moon, is in Taurus, both ruled by Venus. And so Venus is actually probably the most important planet in this. And we'll look at that in a second. But here we have Uranus, which is supercharging our Sun and our Moon. And so we can kind of feel like we're getting electricity from both sides, right? We're getting it squared from Saturn in Aquarius, and then it's conjunct Uranus in Taurus. Now, Uranus is our genius, our independence, innovation, semination. It's our tribe. And so if we think about this woman of Samaria coming to draw well, it's like this enlightening conversation that brings us this sense of a rainbow's pot of gold. However, it's like there's something that it feels like every time we try to do it, there's like a thunderstorm, right? Now, let's get to Venus. So Venus is on the degree. She's right now at 16 Aquarius, 16 past. So we do 17 Aquarius for the Sabian. And her symbol is a watchdog standing guard, protecting his master and his possessions. And so I like to think of Venus in these moments of if our Sun and Moon is going out to talk to Saturn in Aquarius or dealing with Uranus in Taurus, and think about that Jesus Samaritan woman meeting, that Venus is our sort of guard dog. And what she's doing here, you see how these people are trying to protect her from being stripped bare, right? So our feeling of being stripped bare, of feeling exposed, is kind of the emergency brake that's being pulled right now. And so I would say, and let me move this in. So next year, 2021, Saturn and Uranus are going to come into a perfect square, and that's going to hit 3 times. So I really believe that this new moon is seeding whatever is going to happen then. And at that point, we will be asked to, and I say asked with giant quotes around it, something we'll have to give up. You might remember the Saturn-Uranus opposition in 2009, blowing up a lot of old institutions, blowing up a lot of marriages, blowing up something somewhere in your chart. And so that square, it's going to make us make a choice next year. And so I believe that whatever happens now is sort of seeding that situation that we'll be having to deal with. We may have surprise encounters that open our eyes to new truths that cause us to see ourselves and life in a different way. We may feel electricity coming at us from all directions. We may have a Kundalini awakening. We may feel attacked because something is trying to get past our defense mechanisms. And this is why we live it as a thunderstorm. We may understand that timing isn't right. Remember, Saturn is timing. And so it's best to wait until the storms will pass. The freedom of identity and emotions that Uranus is forcing us to sorry about that, is going to encounter where Saturn and Venus are trying to protect us. Now, Saturn, remember, I always say Saturn's that really annoying person who comes with you to the party, and you're just trying to have fun, and he keeps trying to remind you that you're a really important business meeting. And so it kind of sucks because you don't get to enjoy that party. But again, there's going to be 1,000 other parties. But you're annoyed at the time, and then the next day you're like thankful because the meeting goes well because you didn't stay out and drink all night. So it's kind of those restrictions that we really don't enjoy, but are there for good reason, because they're forcing us to be cautious. And with Venus at this degree and that message of saying, the guard dog protecting you, I would say and this has been coming up a lot in the cards, is to pay attention. Examine everything, ask questions, make sure that, if you have one of these meetings, if you meet one of these gurus, if you have one of these conversations, don't take everything for face value, right? Ask questions. When the Samaritan woman met Jesus, she asked him, "Why are you talking to me?" That was the first, don't take anything for granted. Do your homework, ask your questions. And then I'll get to another thing in a second. And then we may realize another thing here is, the misdirected attention is that our pot of gold has actually been in front of us the whole time. We've just been looking at it with the wrong perspective, right? One of the things that Jesus does to this woman is help her see that despite the fact that she's a sinner and has been identified as a sinner, but she is still a human and she belongs to humanity, and there is forgiveness available if she's willing to accept it. Now, I should also preface this. I am not religious at all. This is not meant to be a lesson in Catholicism or Christianity. I'm just trying to tell a story from an allegory. I look at the Bible as one of the greatest works of allegory ever written. So some questions to consider in this new moon period here is, how can I get a sense of emotional and personal freedom without having to burn my whole world down, right? And this is where Saturn and Venus are trying to protect us, because they're in Uranus, and Uranus wants to blow stuff up. Since you have to integrate these two disparate energies, right? And we're pushing towards either or, give me liberty or give me death. Well, is there another way we can get liberty without having to die, right? Like, is there some way we can maybe find our freedom without having to kill everybody, kind of thing? Or how can you responsibly belong to a tribe of like-minded souls in order to move towards a more spiritual community? Do you have to quit your day job? So questions like this is that, how can I belong to something without necessarily giving up my sense of stability, my sense of continuity, my ability to grow in whatever I'm doing? How do I enjoy freedom responsibly? How do we care for others? I think I spelled responsibly wrong. Sorry. How do we care for others without losing ourselves and our own sense of pleasure? So becoming sort of the martyr, the giving martyr. How do we find pleasure in being responsible for the collective well-being? For many of us who maybe have just been focused more on the self, and now we're starting to get an idea that we want to do something for the collective. How do we not... like this lockdown thing. It's like, everybody's like, oh, I feel so punished. It's like, well, can we find peace and joy and compassion and salvation for others in knowing that we're making a choice to try and potentially save somebody else's life, right? To find the humanity in taking care of the collective well-being. And how do we redefine what a good Samaritan is, right? And I love that this is that was that image, because we have this idea of the Good Samaritan, and then we have this image of this woman who was had been with many men, and which was illegal then, but it doesn't mean so sort of reconciling these two different points of view. Like, tradition has told us one thing, but spirituality and the future are telling us something else. How do we blend these two energies, or take the best of both worlds and turn them into a third thing, right? That's where that Venus comes in. The Venus is like, I'm trying to protect you. Take a piece of Saturn, take a piece of that lightning bolt, take a piece of that brilliant conversation that you're going to have with an enlightened being, and blend them together, but do it in a way that protects you from losing your shirt, that protects you from losing yourself, that protects you from from being stripped bare. And many, I'm sure, will disagree with me on this. Like, no, it's love. You have to throw yourself completely in. I do believe, particularly in the sense of Taurus, which is a lot about self-preservation. Trust me, I was married to one for 10 years. It's also about thinking about the self, because if we can't grow, and if we can't take care of ourselves, and if we can't flourish, then we are useless to anyone else. All right, so I'm going to stop here and move on to the cards. Hello, Aries. Happy new moon, April 22nd, 2020. So that first piece went a little bit longer than I was expecting, so I'm going to try and be quick here. Keep this to a normal time. Let's get 3 cards, please, face down, for advice for Aries for this new moon on April 22nd, 2020. One more card face down, please. Okay, I'll take that one. Hope everyone is doing well, keeping safe. I won't blather on today, be quick. Let's get the overall energy for Aries, please. New moon, April 22nd. What's the overall energy for this new moon on April 22nd? Okay, perseverance. Interesting. I'm going to see how the rest of the cards come out there. But interesting. Interesting. All right, hold on. Because I was thinking of exactly this card that was at the bottom of the deck. Okay. So this card fell out while I was shuffling. And it's Three of Pentacles. And I was thinking about it because this reminded me of that same thing, because they both have these two figures talking. So I'm going to take this. So this is the challenge card, right? This is the Three of Pentacles. And this one is a little bit different, the Three of Pentacles, which is normally about teamwork, right? And about leveling up or getting to another level in your career or in whatever it is that you're working on. This card here, though, also tells us, and you see how there's these two kind of like people whispering, okay? And if you listen to the first piece, you know, remember I said that there's going to be some sort of conversation that sort of changes everything, or makes us see things in a different light. Now, what this card says here is that it is important to listen to ourselves, right? So now one of the things that may also be happening with those two planets there, with the Saturn and the Uranus, is that you may end up getting so much information from the outside that it may confuse you, and you are forced to listen only to yourself, right? So there may be some people who find the answer in the conversation, whatever this life-changing conversation is. You may get the answer, you may get the encouragement, you may also find, you know, so if you're someone who needs to work on their own self-esteem, their own self-belief, their own trust in their own abilities, right? Like, so changing the way you see yourself, much like that Samaritan woman, you may end up finding that the conversations you have with others put you into a position where the only choice you have is to listen to yourself, right? So the conversations could work two ways. You may end up finding the guru that you've been looking for. You may find the teacher you've been looking for. You may also find that everyone who is giving you advice is leading you in the wrong direction. If that is happening to you, the lesson is that you are meant to listen to yourself, right? To continue to persevere, but by following your own instincts. By taking whatever these conversations are and flipping them around, right? So as I said in the first part, there's some sort of conversation that will happen that's going to change our view on everything. It may enlighten you. It may also just push you to the point where you're like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to myself because these people have no idea what they're talking about. So it could be one of those situations. You'll know which one you're in. If you find that people keep leading you in the wrong direction, then you're definitely one of those who needs to listen to themselves. Now, what wisdom is this new moon bringing us? That's incredible. I love it when that stuff happens. Wisdom, what wisdom is this new moon bringing us? Okay, serendipity, but in the protection form. So let me actually just double check what that means here. It's a 9, so closing out a cycle. 18, 9 protection. And remember, there's that protection message, kind of like that Venus coming in on the shell there. Perhaps you felt, oh, okay, here we go. Almost certain that serendipitous events were meant to lead to something better. It was supposed to be the perfect business, or that person you gave your heart to was supposed to be the one, yet it all fell apart. Consider this. Sometimes synchronicity and serendipity come together to lead you directly into difficulties in order to deliver an important lesson you need to learn before you hit the jackpot. Love it, right? Like literally all the symbols tying together here. Don't get caught up in the drama of disappointment. There really is a silver lining in this cloud. Spirit always knows what you need and is guiding you to where you are meant to go. Pay attention to the signs presented to you. Okay, so awesome. That's literally what I was talking about before. That if you felt someone led you in the wrong direction, and that's kind of like, you know, like that on its head. If you feel like someone led you on the wrong direction, they were actually leading you to a point where you found the strength to go to start listening to yourself and to what you want. And remember, this is what I said at the end of that, at the end of the first piece. We really have to work first and foremost on making ourselves whole, happy, finding pleasure for ourselves, learning to love ourselves, learning to be our own gurus, learning to be our own religion, in a healthy way, not in a narcissistic way. But before we can go out and be with other people, that is sort of like the foundation point. We have to, and this is what Taurus is teaching us, is that it's about taking care of our own needs, pleasures first, in order to be able to then share them with someone else. Now, let's move on. Sorry, my allergies are so bad. I had like a 20-minute sneezing thing before I started, so. No, you know what? I'm just going to skip this. I'm going to go straight to here. Can I get 3 cards, please, for this new moon? 3 cards, please, for this new moon. April 22nd, 2020. 3 cards for Aries. Okay, there's that 9 again. And this may be that thunderbolt that was coming out. 2 more cards, please, for Aries. It was the High Priestess. So yes, talking about intuition, right? Listening to both sides, but gathering your own information, right? So that's that 3, right? If we think about the Saturn and the Uranus, both focusing on us, it's like you have these sort of 2 pillars coming at you of information, and then you having to decide for yourself. So 2 more cards, please, for Aries at this new moon. Okay. Oh, goodness. Okay, so, you know, might be a little lost in what didn't go the way we hoped. 1 more card, please. But as this card is reminding us that it was all done on purpose to bring you here, right? That it's like an alternative form of guidance. 1 more card, please, for Aries. Okay, and that's it. And then there's this King of Wands, right? This fiery figure here at the end, who sort of overlooks this. But this is all in the past, right? And it's sort of like, he looks on the King of Wands, the fire sign, so it's definitely us. He's looking on this loss, this disappointment, this anxiety, this feeling of desperation with a new level of detachment, right? And a new level of wisdom. You don't get any higher than the King, right? Next you level up to the major arcana. But he's, as far as the fire goes, he's the highest you can get, right? So this is kind of like being able to get past these energies and get here, looking at things from a new level, right? And persevering through the sort of difficult moments and understanding their role in them before you can get to be the King of Wands. And that these things had to happen in order to get you here. Okay. I kind of do want another card from here. Sorry. Let me get one more card. Tell us about our journey here. April 22nd, 2020. Okay. So it's rock bottom. Oh, God, it just flew out of my hands, literally. So it's the rock bottom, but it's in the protection. It's a 10. So what this says to me is that it moves on from the 9, right? And that the worst is over. Let's see. Okay. So this is a symbol for addiction in all forms, subtle or obvious. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results will never provide you with what you desire. At this moment, there is nowhere else to go, and you're facing the end of the road. If you fear change, be willing to change. Surrender your wants to a higher power. Ask for truth and allow humility to be your guiding force from within. You will always get what you need. You are only a victim of your perceptions. Take heart because you can't sink any further. The only way to go from here is up, and wondrous things await you. Okay, so it sounds like some people are having a very hard time right now. These are very rough cards. And again, it's about guiding you out of this place, right? About how to get you out of here, how to put this in the past, and how to move into a space of power, of wisdom, of strength, and also detachment, right? To how to rise above it. And it will take perseverance. It will take guidance. And some of this guidance may come from people close to you. It may come in a negative form, so that you are forced into a position of your own strength, right? This isn't a team effort here to be the King of Wands. There's not 3 people on that throne. There's 1. And so it's about making decisions that are good for you, following what speaks to your heart, not giving up on the things that you imagine for your own life. And even in a moment of very clear anxiety, disappointment, loss, that even this is divinely guided to bring you to a better place, right? So for people who missed the first part or who skipped past it, the symbolism of this moon is really about a major conversation that is going to change how you see yourself, how you see your life. It may sort of like open your eyes to a new religion. It may be something unexpected, it'll be sort of a game changer. For some of us, it will be the guidance that we've needed on a positive way, like how to get out of here. For others of us that are dealing with addictive behaviors, which means constantly dating narcissists, and believe me, I feel you, that was me for many years. It's like, how many times do we have to break our own heart until we listen, until we get it, right? And it's that Venus who wants to protect you. How many times do you have to lose everything until you learn to protect yourself, to protect your heart, to love you, to stop giving to things that don't nurture you, things that don't enrich you, things that don't bring you pleasure, that don't help you grow, things that suck the life out of you, that drag you down to the bottom of the abyss, when really all you want to be is up here on top. Let me get a spirit animal card and then we'll read these. It's pretty intense. I wasn't expecting it to go so dark. I have read on some other websites that this is a pretty rough moon. I like to look at silver linings all the time because, as this card said, it's a question of perception. Trust me, I've been here. I've been here multiple times, so I feel you. I've been here. The last time I was here was 2017. I don't remember, but it took the last one to drag me here, to get me here. Once you break this piece, you don't ever go back. Just that's the good thing. Once you break this thing, this chain of addiction, of behavior, and maybe psychic, like consistently talking to psychics for guidance and they're leading you in the totally wrong direction. That's actually how I learned tarot, was because I was consistently obsessing over tarot readings to find out what this person was thinking, was doing, and they were always wrong. And I would get mad, right, that they were wrong, but that was how I ultimately learned what the cards meant. So there's usually a second message. When we're here, there's multiple reasons for why it's happening. Sometimes is to wake you up to yourself. Sometimes also to wake you up to some gifts that you didn't know that you had. My first soul connection got me into astrology. One got me into tarot. And the third one just definitively broke me open so that I never went back here again and I would never in this moment get off this throne. So if you're in here, it is possible to get here. You are the one who decides when it happens. That's the unfortunate and happy news at the same time. It's when you decide to stop repeating those behaviors that they stop. So let me can I get advice for Aries at this new moon? What advice for Aries at the new moon, April 22nd? Okay. Turtle spirit, slow and steady wins the race. And that's a 62. So that's an 8. So we've seen 8, 9, 10. Let's read this. Okay, so turtle spirit arrives to remind you that when you do what you need to do, and this is like a turtle, like perfect image for Taurus, right? I always think of a Taurus like obviously a bull, but like the white rhino, which basically never moves all day, which is kind of like my ex-husband, or a turtle, and my ex-husband was obsessed with turtles. So when you put one foot in front of the other and trusting that you will see intentions manifest in perfect timing, your prosperity and love will grow exponentially. Now is not the time to rush around trying to force matters. Move slowly, perhaps even so slowly that it almost feels as if you're not moving at all. This may be a time to crawl before walking, taking your time to align to Turtle Spirit's place as you contemplate this road you are on. doing what you will need to do in this small moment that will soon pass. Turtle Spirit reminds you that sometimes the best action is to slow right down. So if it feels as if you are not doing enough, know that simply being aware of what is happening right now may be an important step towards determining whether you need to pivot or simply keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's that perseverance, right? So this is like the information you're going to get, perhaps through this conversation, is going to help you, like, you'll get some information or some messages that are going to give you the information on whether you need to persevere or whether you need to pull away and start only listening to yourself. I mean, we should always listen to ourselves, but some of us are in a place where we are used to listening to ourselves and can listen to others around us. Some of us are still working on it. Or keep putting it. True love and true success comes with patience, says Turtle Spirit. Focus on the now, and the next step will be clear. Okay, let's read our Nature Spirit cards. If you picked this one, you got the Spirit Keeper of the East. Let's see what this says. So, new beginnings, a fresh cycle is occurring in your life. Wipe the slate clean. It's now time to release the old and start again. No matter what has happened in the past, it doesn't need to repeat in the future. Your native spirit wants you to know, in native traditions, the directions are honored. It's believed that every direction has an associated spirit that can be called upon. In the great cycle of life, the east is the place of the rising sun. It's also associated with planting seeds in the springtime, birth, the waxing moon, and new beginnings. Pulling this card means that this is the close of one cycle and the beginning of another. Although it's often difficult to release familiar routines, situations, or relationships when they no longer empower you, your native spirit asks that you not cling to the old, but set sail into new waters. Face your fear and allow yourself to stretch in a new direction. Wonderful opportunities will be born in your life. Lovely. Okay, this one is Spirit of Air, right? Going to be a little bit of Uranus in that. Spirit of the Wild. Here we go. Sorry. All right, so clarity and expansive perception of life is emerging. You're being advised to see life from a higher perspective. Clear out mental clutter, breathe, all is well. Do not be concerned the cobwebs are being cleared away. Communicate your truth, take care of details, pay attention, and don't let things slip through the cracks. Take time to hear the truth of others. Spirit is whispering to you. Interesting. Open your mind to see a situation in a new light. Your native spirit wants you to know the Spirit of Air represents the mental aspect of your life. It's the part that has the capacity to discern, analyze, organize, evaluate, and judge. Though seemingly subtle and unseen, air is composed of the most rarefied energy fields, and we're in constant communion with the vast universe through our breath. The Spirit of Air carries the energy of change and transformation, inspiration, aspiration, mental clarity, freedom, perception, communion, and communication. The element of air also allows you to see situations from a higher perspective. This card can indicate that it's time to do some major clutter clearing and organizing. Interesting. And then this last one here. Oh, Spirit Keeper of the West. Interesting. East, west, and air in between. Love it. Okay. Transformation. Let go of the old. Initiation. Illumination. Harvest. Gather your inner resources. I love that these also line up with these cards here. If it doesn't feel right, don't go ahead. Trust your heart. Chaos brings positive change. I'm going to call this reading that. Almost all change comes out of turmoil. Don't be concerned if there's confusion in your life. It will all work out. Your native spirit wants you to know, in the medicine wheel, the west is the direction that symbolizes the fiery setting sun, autumn, the waning moon, and the time of harvest, and the tumultuous years of teenagers in the human cycle. Out of the chaos arise illumination and transformation. In order for the new to ignite in your life, it's necessary to let go of the old. Sweep away the debris. The spirit keeper of the West reminds us to slow down our rapid growth and harvest what we have attained. In the autumn, leaves are burned to make way for new growth. Release the dross in your life to make way for new growth. Okay, so clearly a very, very important moment of transformation for everyone. Like, these are all about transformation. They're all about letting go of something old, and they're all about taking a moment to assimilate the information that's coming in to you. It may come through divine, it may come through walking you into a wall 100 times until you're like, I'm going to walk myself somewhere else, right? So the information's either going to come to you through your spirit guides or through you waking up to yourself as your own guide. One of those two situations will happen. Either way, now this may also be a situation of chaos. It may be, I mean, we're living in a situation of chaos, so it's certainly, we can't say we're in a peaceful moment, but it's knowing how to sort of capitalize on this current energy to stay still, to not feel the need to rush forward, to release all of this really, really crappy energy right here that's been holding us down, right? And keeping us from getting where we need to be, from getting where we want to be. This is the final destination here, and it's so interesting because this card is so different than everything else. It's almost like a reminder of, hey, things are slow. Advice is going to come in weird ways. It may come through a person, it may come through, or it may come from, breaking your own heart 1,000 times until you're like, enough. But this is the destination. This is where we're going. And this guy, he sits here serene with his little lizard, and he looks back on the past, and he's not emotionally affected by it. He's not, he's now dominating everything that has led him to this point. And so, even though this may be where you are, you may be here, you may be somewhere in the middle. The overall message is very clear. Don't succumb to the energy of this moment. If nothing's moving, that's why. It's so that you can get time to hear yourself on multiple levels, whether it's from this or whether it's from someone else. But circumstances will be such that you will get the information that you need to make steps to go from rock bottom to the King of Wands, right? Okay, I'm going to stop that here. I wish you all a very illuminating and enlightening new moon. Take care.